The reason we're meeting is that the Board of Selectmen have put forth a warrant article to change the makeup of our body. Currently, we have 4 at-large members, and they want to make that 3, and that one of the at-large members would be appointed from the Veterans Affairs Committee. I believe that's how the warrant article reads. And so I wanted to get people's thoughts. I think my thoughts at the very beginning is, I do believe that we have a veteran on our committee that is a very, very outspoken veteran and very capable of representing any kind of projects that may come to us or bring projects to us from that committee.
And I'm on that committee.
And he's also a member of that committee. And to my knowledge, and I think Joanne checked and did not find any, that we've never had an article or a project that would come from that committee. And also somewhat problematic is most of what they might have that would come to us are not eligible projects. We could do renovations for like the eggs if they need a renovation, you know, if they're 50 years or older, that's considered historic. And it needs to be at least 50 years old, but we can't build something. We can't write a book. We can't paint, or, you know, there's all these other, we can't do other kind of projects, which kinds of, what kind of puts us in a bind in terms of anybody helping them. So
there's veterans housing, and that's already covered by the housing authority. We have veteran housing, and also the what we do for affordable housing.
Right, and I think
that's the only thing
that gets covered by the Affordable Housing Committee and the work that they do, or the trust rather. Ken, sorry to miss you. Go ahead.
You know, you guys are speaking to what I was wondering about, and that's what is the interest of veterans, the Veterans Affairs, with the for purposes of the CPA? I'm not sure how they, you know.
They fold into the others, and I think that's part of it. Like there would be historical things that if they had like a monument that needed that, but a lot of those have been done. The one on the Common for the Civil War was the Boy Scouts redid that recently.
Right,
you know, so
the Vietnam War was 50 years ago now, right?
So, but those, you know, those, I don't know how all those monuments are though. You know, those, I don't know that they went right up right after the war, you know, so.
If I could jump in, John, we had a meeting on Monday night of that committee, and one of the things we were talking about are those same monuments, and also adding to it for the Vietnam War, and then to have some kind of committee to review and see whether or not we should be doing anything for veterans from Afghanistan and from Iran and Iraq. So that's covered.
But we can't fund that, is what, we can't build a new monument because we can't create, we can only preserve history. So, because there was somebody came forward with a book project that was a great project for the updating the history of the town, but we can't do that. That's not our charge. Not from the state. It's not a local thing. This is the Mass General laws, that the enabling legislation that restricts on us on what we are able to do. I don't know if Ken's got another hand or.
No, it's just that, you know, I'm not sure what the selectmen are getting at. You know, what are they trying to achieve?
I'm not sure because, and I think that I did get an email, I wasn't able to read it, from Doreen last night, or was it the night before, and I only got to it last night, that they had a selectman meeting, and because no one responded, they felt like we weren't interested. And I think if we'd have been given a little bit more notice, I think people would have had an opportunity to share their thoughts. I know I would have been happy to, but right now, so I said to her, I'm sorry, but if you can text or call me, I just don't always get to my emails right now. So,
But also last night, Doreen wanted to postpone this warrant article until the spring. She said, she mentioned it, and why do we have to? Because we haven't heard from us. And she said during her chat with Colleen, it should, we should, postpone this until spring. Why are we doing it now? And then Colleen stepped up and said, well, we haven't heard from them. We should, back and forth they were going. And to me, I tried to call in because I didn't have the Zoom. So I was on the phone to Doreen trying to tell her we were having this meeting tonight.
right.
And then I turned around and emailed Evan right away. And he said, yeah, okay, I will tell him, but they already voted to put it on the warrant article. That we weren't, just dropping the ball as a group. I spoke out for the group, no offense, Mr. Chairman. But to tell him, that we were having this meeting.
I think, and that's my concern as well, is what's the rush? If this is if there's, are we missing something that we don't understand why this needs to be on the agenda, the warrant article, because it's already almost October 1st and town meeting's only a couple weeks. We had to have our warrant articles in a month ago, and that's planning and thoughtful and people coming and speaking. And this seems like it's just very last minute. And it's not, to me, it's like, I'm missing something why it needs to be done, and it needs to be done in
Now.
2 weeks or 3
John, can I
weeks.
add
Whenever.
something? Can I?
Sure.
I agree. It looks like a solution looking for a problem, and I'm not exactly sure where this is all coming from the board, but I happened to catch a little of, not last night's meeting, but the meeting before. I thought they were looking for 2 seats. One's from the veteran and one that the Board of Selectmen would appoint. That's what I saw. Have they taken off the Board of Selectmen appointment?
I think that dropped off. So
Okay, so now they're just looking for the veteran.
just one. So Justin,
So briefly, just from watching the select board discussion on this, what it was suggested by the select board to take off the select board direct appointment because they appoint the at-large members anyway. So if the select board member wanted to be on, they have that, in theory, power as their board to appoint a select board member. The other piece that was worth noting is Evan mentioned that this, because we have appointments that are for terms, anyone that would be newly from another board or committee would be at the end of someone's term and not something that would happen immediately, even though if this does pass at town meeting, it does go into effect right away, but the ability to appoint someone will only happen at the end of a term. That's what Evan described. And then Ray Mead as well did say that he voted in favor of putting this on the warrant. He did say that if CPC was not in favor of it, he would be in favor of passing it over at town meeting. And my understanding of why now as well is that Colleen did express that she felt if it goes on to October town meeting and passes, it gives the CPC or us the chance to prepare for any shakeup or disorientation, so to speak, that it might do to our board and our ongoing projects.
did she say why because I'm assuming she brought this forward. I don't know.
Yeah, my understanding is that the why is that is that just having veterans representation on our committee is a great thing to have. And I know Jim is a wonderful presence and a veteran as well. Thank you. The idea in my head as well is that if Jim suddenly can't do the commitment of this board or other boards, it still is a good idea to make sure we have a veteran representation. That's my takeaway of it. I do note that I do see Ken's hand as well, but Colleen Roy is on our Zoom and has her hand up. if we want to
Okay,
entertain
I don't-
her to.
Is she not on a picture?
I just want to say,
As
John,
an attendee.
Yeah.
excuse me,
Yes. Yeah.
John, I was gonna let
Yes.
you know. So Colleen is an attendee, so
Okay,
she's not a panelist. She has her hand up. You would
okay,
have her promoted to a panelist status. She would be brought into the meeting and allowed to speak. That's up to you to decide as chairman.
okay. Oh, I would be interested to hear the history of this warrant article. So,
Do you,
guess-
and Ken has his hand up too. So who do you want first?
okay, Ken, and then
I was going to defer, I'd like to hear what Colleen has to say first.
okay. So if
I
you can
will-
make,
thing
just
I
wanna
wanted
say-
to add, John, was
Yeah.
that this committee that is being mentioned is a brand new committee. We just had our very first meeting on Monday, and we just barely had a quorum, all right?
okay,
That there are other members that still have to be it, and I'm thinking perhaps, and again, I agree with everyone else. Let's listen to Colleen, and I'll just be quiet.
and I just want to say one thing before we go to Colleen. I
okay.
am a veteran too, so.
Okay, so we got two veterans. Okay, Colleen, I think you're ready to go.
Yeah, hi, thanks for taking me on to discuss this. So what I'm hearing is you guys mostly want to understand what it is that I was trying to achieve by recommending this. And I think Justin hit the nail on the head. It was just, I wanted to ensure veteran representation on CPC. I know a lot of what they might come to do in the future could be funded with CPA funds, even though there is a very limited scope of what CPA funds can go towards. And I appreciate that there are already veterans on here, but I wanted to ensure that somebody stays on here for the foreseeable future. And the fact that this committee was just created, getting them a seat at this table for potential funding sources for projects just seemed to make sense to me. And in the CPA Act, it says the committee shall include but not be limited to, and says you have to have these 5 committees represented on here. But that's just the bare minimum. We can get a little more prescriptive, and having the Veterans Affairs Committee on here just seemed to make sense to me. And I understand that Mr. Gallagher as well as Mr. Whitney are both veterans. Mr. Gallagher, you are the Housing Authority representative though right now. I don't know if you could be representative to both committees. Maybe you could, maybe you couldn't. That's probably a different discussion at a later time. But it's not looking to necessarily change your makeup. You guys could all remain on this committee. It's just to ensure this committee going forward always has representation from veterans at this table.
Thank you, Colleen. And just for your information, it's Jim and Rich. All right. Please don't be
All
so
right.
formal because we get all upset if that happens.
Yeah,
Jimmy and Richie, okay, though.
There
That's
you go.
fine.
That's it.
I'm
We're
Richie
thinking of
and I'm
having
four.
we're going to have a show on Fox. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. So did that help address some of the concerns anybody had?
Have any veterans approached you that they felt like they weren't being included? I mean, because I feel like we've missed something if like we didn't do a project for them in the past.
No, I don't think there's anything. I think you guys are looking for something that could have spawned this, and there was nothing that really, other than I just thought it was a good idea. You know, veterans are important to me, and I'd like to make sure that they're represented as much as they possibly can. We had just been talking heavily about the veterans, creating the Veterans Affairs Committee. So to me, it just made sense that the next logical step is, hey, let's get them at a seat at a table that could potentially provide a funding source for maybe some of the projects that they're looking to do. You know, restoring monuments or creating parks. You guys do a lot of passive recreations and parks and stuff like that. So that was just my thought.
That's not the Veteran Affairs. Isn't that soldiers and Jim, what's it called? Who take care of the monuments?
Soldiers and Memorial Trust.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not the Veterans Affairs. I mean, Veterans Affairs.
That's
is-
correct. That's a
so
different
it Seems
committee.
to be a little misguided on who you want at the table. If that's.
It's
the
not
goal
that.
is the memorials. The Veterans Affairs is my understanding is deals with, you know, getting veteran services, not really dealing with the monuments.
So when we created the Veterans Affairs Committee, it was discussed that the Soldiers Memorial and Monument Committee was not meeting as regularly as they could. They were having a hard time getting things. So they were going to kind of absorb some of that into the Veterans Affairs Committee. So it wasn't misguided. It's just that there's a shift in what this new committee is going to be doing. So having them have a seat at the table. And I did consider doing the Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Trust, but because of it just seemed like the newer committee was going to have membership that would be more available to you guys.
Now, what about the 1 year and 3 year appointments that you put in the draft article? You'd be having one person for 1 year and one person for, I think it was 2 years, I'm sorry, not 3. And then with this group, this committee here, we only get together once a month. How can a person that's on for a year start a project or come up to speed, like John would say, come up to speed and get, everything started, and then at the end of a year, be bumped off the committee, and who would, continue his or her project? That's
So Rich,
my,
I know what you're saying, and I know the language you're talking about. That's for when CPA was first adopted in Grafton and how they could have a tiered approach for the members at large. It's not how it works now. Everybody who gets appointed by the select board as a member at large has a 3-year term. There is no 1-year term seats anymore.
okay, so you took that out of the warrant article that you're putting in.
Well, the member at large that would flip to this newly Veterans Affairs Committee representative, they would just be that representative. So it would be up to that committee to, I know a lot of you guys have been representatives from your own committees for quite a while, so I think it would probably be similar to that.
John, I got a question.
Both
couple
Ken and
things.
Brooke have their
What-
hands up.
Okay,
Ken, you can go first if you want.
Ken, sorry.
Okay, I think Colleen answered whether the discussion may have answered one of my questions, but raised another. So there's an issue of the 2 veterans committees and what their charters are. And you mentioned, it seems that memorials may be the only thing that the CPC can do with respect to veterans. I don't see what else there is. And I was wondering but you said that memorials were handled by one group, and the language in the warrant cites the other group. And so I was wondering what the other group's charter as written says about memorials. Is it-
Nothing, nothing.
Nothing. And so
Basically, as John said before, it's talking about veteran services. What
So
we're
the ma-
looking at is to see if we can get folks that from the Agent Orange, to let them know that there's new automatic eligibility for things like that, for education, for VA loans, for counseling, I haven't had a doctor in 20 years. Who can I go see? Things like that. It's a service-oriented committee.
So the organization cited in the warrant really has nothing to do with memorials. And memorials seem to be the only thing that's been cited by anybody as something that might come under the purview of this committee. So that doesn't make any sense to me.
Just to piggyback on that a little bit, John, just to piggyback a little bit on that. My understanding of the CPA from the initial, when we began this, it's not from the members within the committee to bring ideas to the committee. It's for the town and townspeople outside of the normal budgetary restrictions to bring ideas to the CPA. I mean, I don't know how many CPA projects have we done that have been initiated from people inside the CPA.
Very few and only at the very beginning.
Yeah, and usually now if it's somebody who has a park and she happens to be a selectman, or if there's somebody who's got open space and they happen to be on the open space committee, that's fine. But the goal wasn't to put people on a committee to then go figure out how to spend money. It was more to have a fund for the town to pay for items that ordinarily could not or would not be paid for under the budget of the town. So having someone on veterans or anything, actually, it doesn't really matter, because anybody on any street can bring any project they want to CPA. And having a seat at the table, it might actually be a negative because it looks as though you're trying to, do a deal for your own organization. It's better to have someone ask for a boat ramp who's not on the committee rather than having someone who's on the committee ask, and I don't know who would be in charge of boat ramps, but I guess recreation then trying to put in 7 boat ramps. Again, I think this is a problem looking for a solution. I'm not really sure how it helps. And it gave me a little bit of pause what Justin said that you wanted to pass it in October. So if there's any shakeup, you could get it figured out by May.
Those were my words, not the select board, just to be clear.
Okay, all right, because that was a little disconcerting. Anyway, I just think it works the way it works, and I think if the veterans have a monument that can be fixed through CPA, the CPA is willing to do that. I don't think you need a veteran on here, although we do have 2. But again, as Ken pointed out, the person you're putting on doesn't have anything to do with monuments. So whether you blended them or not.
Colleen, do you have any more that you wanted to add, or does anybody have any questions for Colleen?
Well, I have one that I'm reading, I'm sorry, off the Article 23 draft. I just want to kind of like, if this has been dropped or not. And it says, at-large member shall be appointed to the following terms: 1 for a 1-year term and 1 for a 2-year term. Terms will be 3 years, and all members of the committee may be reappointed.
That doesn't doesn't really make any sense.
No, and I know it's a draft, but my feeling is of putting one person on for 1 year when we only meet basically 12 times, quote unquote, a year, how can we get a project up and running? And I understand we can be reappointed and all that, but my thing is, if the select board wants to appoint somebody at large, it should always be at 3 years, because that way it gives the person or her sons, that time to get up into speed. And I'm a poster child for that, guys, and you know that. I need to get up to speed on stuff, and Joanne's always reminding me I can't do this and I can't do that, and I'm learning. And I've been on it for almost 6 months now, and I'm learning, and I'm want to take over projects that we've had in the past, and time that's done, it'll probably be 3 years to have that one project done. So that's where I am, Colleen. I'm sorry.
No,
And
so can I respond to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
And I want to make one more comment. I tried to talk to you guys last night by calling in, and Doreen says I couldn't take your phone call, and I didn't have the Zoom address and everything, or I would have done it. So I apologize to the board on that.
No problem. So the language you're referring to is because if this seat is to change, the 3 members at large, just to ensure that they're tiered and appointed on different years, you have to set it up that way. This language is the same language it started when we started the CPA. It's just to ensure that we're not flipping members at large. It will not remain consistent after that. As it says, after they're all appointed, they'll start going to 3-year terms. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Okay.
Brooke,
John, has anyone reached out to the coalition just to see how they make up their, overall through the state? I mean, do they have veterans agents on there? Do they have, I know there's certain that you have to have on.
we did, and there aren't stats, but let's see, from Stuart Saganor, who's the director. We don't have an inventory of CPC positions in each community, but I can report that I've never heard of a town devoting a slot to the CPC to the Veterans Commission. There may be 1 or 2, but it wouldn't surprise me if no one has ever done it. So he's saying he's not aware of it, but that doesn't mean that towns have not done that. And that, the goal when CPA was set up was that you have the 5 town boards that are represented, that represent the affordable housing, open space, recreation, historic preservation, that those are represented by the committees that you already have set up in town. And that's,
Do you want me to screen share the letter? Would that help you?
sure.
Okay.
That leaves the 4 at large to be people in the community, so that anybody, whether it is a selectman or a veteran, it's anybody that applies and I guess gets interviewed, and that leaves that opportunity for the community to still have a large voice in what we do.
Yeah, I mean, not to jump in, but it's a community. If you read the second, third paragraph, it's about the community. It's not about boards in town. And that's what the at-large seats do.
Because the appointed, from the boards, those are all appointed by the selectmen, and then the 4 remaining would be at large, so.
And what's been said here seems to be that no one from this community has asked for this. And so it's just kind of out of the blue because maybe it would be nice. But it sounds like no veterans have asked for this representation.
Okay, because we've that on the screen. I can't tell if anybody's raising a hand, but
I'm going to stop. Yeah, unless somebody wants it back
yeah.
up, I'll take it down.
Colleen, do you have anything else? Otherwise, we'll let you go back to your dinner or your evening, because I know it's right in the
No,
middle.
I do have one question for you guys, because I am
Yep.
sensing some hesitancy, and I know Mr. Gallagher is saying that this is a very service-driven committee, but I do
Better
know.
call
when
him
we talked-
Jim.
Oh, sorry, Jimmy, J-Man, he said that this committee was going to be very service oriented, but I remember when we were talking about it, it was to try to absorb and take on some of the other roles that some of these committees that might not be meeting as regular, might not have enough participation to, in addition to services, take care of. So I'm hearing hesitancy from some of you guys, and I guess I'm just trying to understand what the hesitancy is about allowing a veteran, like a permanent veteran seat at this committee. I don't understand that.
It's just to what end? When we're talking about someone from the Soldiers and Sailors monuments and things like that, when we first brought up that one of the things that this new committee might like to do is maybe incorporate some of those things, we got some big time kickback from the Goulet Post, who has always taken up and done the parades and managed those things like that. And they said, oh, what do you want? You don't want us to do that anymore? And we said, no, absolutely not. We just want to, if you need any help, we'll be here to help. But again, this new committee was, when members of the Soldiers and Sailors, that old committee, that, by the way, hasn't met in close to 3 years and refuses to do anything by Zoom. And they had, from my understanding, is that once they were invited to become a part of this committee, which can be as large as 15 members, all right, not so much. So.
Okay, well, I think unless anybody has any more questions.
Well, I guess I know, John, you want to move on, but I guess my hesitancy is you're taking away a seat for the community at large. And to go piggyback on what Ken said, nobody's asked for this. No one from veterans has asked for this. No one from the monuments have asked for this, but you're taking away community input in order to put somebody on there who hasn't asked you to do it. So I'm wondering, where did it come from that this was a good idea? Now, I know originally you were going to put on a selectman's rep and a veterans agent rep. Now you're just going to put the veterans agent. So, I mean, the question is reversed back to you. Our hesitancy, what's the impetus? What was the big draw that it had to be done at the last minute to throw it on this October warrant?
Well, it really wasn't last minute. We started talking about the veterans charge over the summer, and that had me very veterans oriented thinking. And when I first came up with this as an idea, it was end of August, early September. So it's just a matter of time getting it on an agenda and getting it, it fell where it fell because I don't set the agenda, right? But it wasn't really last minute as it may seem, but it is something that I just thought was a good idea because of how this new committee formed and how you guys operate and how you do have representatives from, recreation, for example, that says, hey, here's a project, and that might help see other projects, or, hey, I got this veteran who over here who thinks this is a great idea, and helps bring them to you guys. That was the thought.
Well, one of the members of this new committee is Justin Souza, who is the VA's representative, I guess, for town. Even though we've all been through this before, and anyone named Justin, we try to stay away from them completely. But in his case, we made an exception. So
That's my husband's name.
but yeah. So, but anyway, if that were the case, someone like that, if in the scene that you just presented, would probably have come to the veterans agent who's on this committee, and that just has not been the case, because what he does is service oriented,
I think, it's nobody has any issues or concerns with it, with veterans. We even like a little bit, Jim. We like Rich a lot.
I know you like Rich a lot, yeah.
If they had a project, we certainly would consider it. We would, happy to meet with them or one of them, annually to go say, this is what we can do to help educate them on what we can do and what do they see their committee doing in the next year? Is there a way that CPC funds can be used to help their committee? Don't have a problem with outreach and doing those kind of things, but how quickly this has happened, that there hasn't been a lot of time to digest this and to look at the ramifications, but it is concerning that we could lose a total the at-large position, one at-large position to be locked just for a veterans affairs committee, or whatever the correct name of that committee is, that has limited ability to fund projects, because that's why the committees that are represented, because those are the projects that can be funded, or projects that would come from those various committees. Rich?
As we were talking earlier, and it seems to me that there's already an overlaps of all these other committees that do come in. I'm not against having the veterans on here, because I am a veteran and Jim is too. 100% all my brothers and sisters that served and have done everything for us. But where the boat, to me, and I tell you the way it is, and everybody knows that, and I'm not a politician or anything else, but why rock the boat when the boat's running right? And you have 3 positions that the select board already puts in place, and you have the 5 that are there from other committees that have to be there. And to take one, like Brooke said, take one away, that could be, instrumental and doing what we need to do, Colleen. I feel this article is not justified at this time. There always should be somebody on this committee when appointments come up. Ask if there's if they're a veteran or not a veteran, and leave it as that. And there's always somebody that will, step up to the plate to do it. I don't expect to go anywhere. I hope to get reappointed, be doing a good job. And I know Brooke the same way, and, everybody else that's appointed from you. But I really like your idea, but don't like your idea. to be honest with you.
That's pretty clear, Rich. Thanks.
Thank you. But to me, I think we should just pass over this. And, you know, keep it the way it is. And because from what I've understood tonight, and I haven't read up on it, we can't basically build you this or do that. And it's, you know, certain things that we can do, but not a lot. And it's already being done by Veterans Affairs, or it's being done, you know, by the veterans groups. And then, like Jim said, the Goulet post, you know, and,
Okay.
Yeah, and the VFW post as well.
and the VFW post in South Grafton. I mean, unfortunately, at this time, to be honest with you, I would vote no against this, 100%. And that's
And, you know,
here tonight.
Colleen, the other thing is, as Rich is saying, is that if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Right,
But at the same time, one of the things that we've found on this, the committee, by the way, the new committee is called the Veterans Advisory Committee. And it's service oriented. And one of the things that we've found about the Soldiers and Sailors Committee and this committee here is the difficulty in getting members to fill vacant positions. They have, I think, 2 vacancies, maybe 3 on the Soldiers and Sailors Committee. And right now on this brand new committee, we had our first meeting on Monday night. We still have another 3 vacancies. And we're asking around, trying to get people interested to do that. So to then, as Brooke started saying, to take away someone else from the community, I think that's maybe not, I think it might be ill-advised at this juncture.
Okay. I think that's it. Everybody's, we're gonna get back to the meeting. Thank you, Colleen, for adding some insight to the history of this. And
Pauline, you get the best dressed of the meeting award.
Thank
Hey,
you.
I got on a sweatshirt.
Yeah, see, not like I said.
Hey, today's my day off.
thank you.
All right.
Okay,
thank you,
Can I
Colleen.
get demoted back down to? a
yeah, I'm gonna do,
10?
now, I'm gonna do
Demo-
that right now. Let's keep our fingers
Demoted?
crossed I do it correctly, okay?
Demote her correctly, please.
Thank you,
Don't
Colleen.
demote her
We appreciate
incorrectly.
everything that you do for us, for
No, we really
the
do.
town. Sincerely. You're the best. You
Just
did better than Justin.
move her.
Second to Jim.
She won't be able to rejoin the
Please.
webinar. That's not gonna work. Stop video. Chat pin. Rename.
You can just turn off a video and we can call it a day. I think.
Oh, wait, I know I have to do it here. Got it. It
Got
just
it.
takes me a little bit. You know what it is? I don't do it enough.
John, how
Okay,
much
so-
are we paying her?
Always an excuse, always an excuse.
So we had some good background information. We had some good discussion. Does anybody have anything else? Because the next part of this is tomorrow night, Ken and I are going to go before, and maybe Brooke, if I can twist his arm, before Finance Committee to discuss our warrant articles, but also this particular warrant article that affects us all. And whether we feel like this is a good thing at this time to trade out an at-large position for a member from the Veterans Advisory Committee. So we
John,
need-
if I could,
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that we pass over this article.
Second,
Can I, I'm
Wait.
sorry, I think you got, how do I?
Yeah, I
say-
don't think we can pass over the article.
Yeah, you
We're-
can't, I mean, you can vote to pass over the article, but that means nothing.
Yeah.
I think
Right.
we should vote to
I got a comment, but then I'll make
recommend they pass over the article.
That's better.
Okay, so that,
For the
That-
reasons that we have discussed, that it's a problem, it's a solution without a problem that no one has asked for and has some unfortunate side effects of diminishing community participation in this committee.
Everybody's so
good.
smart.
Very
so
good.
smart.
That's
I
what,
know. You're gonna go places, kid.
no, I've been there already. I'm back. I'm back.
on a vote. no less, or a ship. I don't know what you call your boat. So I have a motion and a second.
So
That-
I'm sorry, the motion is for the committee to vote to
No, to-
We're
recommend.
recommending the Board of Selectmen pass over this
Pass
article.
over.
For those couple of reasons.
So there's your request and your second from those two men.
I'm gonna ask for discussion, but I also want to see if you will add and Finance Committee will vote to pass, because that's the next step
Right.
is tomorrow
Okay,
night
sure.
to get
Yep.
Finance Committee to pass over this as
You're right,
well.
specifically, that's what we're trying to
Right.
vote right now.
Well, it's
Okay.
on the, my brief thought that may require change in the motion is that it's on the town warrant, so our recommendation is that the town pass over, technically, because
Well, what we want Finance Committee to say, we vote to pass over this because what are all the things we just discussed. So if we need to have two motions, we can have two motions. So be it.
Justin has a very good point, because at town meeting, if I'm remembering correctly, right, Justin, the moderator would read the motion and somebody would say, I move we pass over, or
Yes.
we,
or it could be printed and when the select board members reads the motion and they may go, I move we just pass this over, but
correct.
in the printed warrants, the finance committee will have this in their printout that
Right.
includes whatever the recommendation is. The
All right,
recommendation.
I'm gonna make,
Pass it over.
I'm gonna make a motion. The Finance Committee, the
Wait.
Board of Selectmen, and the town vote to pass over this article. And
We have
anyone
a-
else can buy.
We have a motion on the table already that we need to
I
dispense
amended
with.
my motion.
Oh, so you made the initial motion? I'm sorry, I thought I gave the credit to Jim.
No, don't, because he said it more eloquently than I.
Okay. So Joanne, did you hear the amended motion?
So this is what I have. That Ken Holberger made a motion, because I think Ken did, right?
Ken started it.
Ken,
No,
um,
Jim started it.
I think I might have repeated what Brooke said.
Oh, okay. All right. So then I'm sorry, Brooke, I will give the credit.
It's fine. It doesn't matter. It just-
Brooke made a motion, the committee vote to recommend the select board, finance committee and town meeting
Fine.
pass over this article, which I believe is Article 23. I'll verify that. Due to it's a solution without a problem and diminishes community participation in the CPC.
You could say, and no veteran has asked for it.
And even point out that the veterans on the CPC are not in favor of it. And one of the veterans on the CPC is also a member of the Veterans Advisory Committee,
Can
where
I,
the appointment would come from.
my brief pause is I think that we don't need to have a paragraph for why we want down to pass this over.
Mhm.
But we're trying to make sure that finance committee has the words and concepts to put in their.
And that we talked
their
about it.
recommendation.
So your motion could end with the fact that it diminishes community participation in CPC. And
Yes,
other items could be verbiage that whomever is at finance committee tomorrow with the approval of the committee uses in explaining why you guys voted the way you did. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but you know, it's got to be made
Throw out
clear
options
because
here.
in this atmosphere of, I've never been thanked so much in my life for being a veteran than I have in the past few years. You know, certainly nothing like when I came home. And it's important that people realize that this is not a disservice to any veteran or veteran organization. It's just something that's not required for this particular committee.
Well, and given that we have two veterans on our committee and one is a member of the Veterans Affairs Committee, both of whom are opposed to this change. That we support veterans, we still support veterans. We would support projects that would be brought
Yeah, if they ever brought a project, we would probably support
Right.
it, but you're
But-
designating a whole seat to a group that has never brought a project ever.
And they may
So-
not have a project because it is such
Right.
limited scope that we can fund for
Right.
something. That mean, if we could do veterans housing, but we don't have $10 million to build it, so
We,
that's why.
we already have veterans housing.
But I
And
mean,
so
if
something
you
like
wanted
that, if we
more,
were
right.
gonna add on to that, that would come to the housing authority.
Right, that it wouldn't come, we don't have the financial wherewithal to make it happen. And that would be probably the most likely thing that could help the veterans would be housing because of a limited ability to fund a non,
John, may I-
yes,
so you have a motion on the
Yes.
table that's been seconded. Brooke made the motion
okay,
and was the
a lot
second.
of discussion. Any further
So as long
discussion?
as, if this is all still discussion, that's fine.
Yes,
I just
this
wanted
is
to
just
make sure we
discussion.
hadn't lost
Yeah.
sight of the vote.
No,
I just have a
yes,
brief,
but it did. I'll give you that.
I just have a brief thing to say for myself anyway, is that I think having a person that's from the Veterans Affairs Committee is still a good idea just for myself in my head, because the Veterans Affairs Committee can be both veterans or general public. They are allowed to be on there for the charge. And should this committee in the future not have a veteran, I think having a veteran voice on the committee, whether or not the select board in 5-10 years continues to ask if people are veterans or not, I think that's a good idea. So, I recognize that I'm the lone wolf on this idea right now, but
But it'd be great to have a member that's from the school department on this committee
Yeah.
because it's great to support
that's a
the
good idea
school.
too in my mind.
But,
Fire
but
station,
this
the
isn't
police
it's not
department,
the
the Girl
appropriate
Scouts.
venue for that.
But, and Justin, keep in mind that the committee that you're recommending that this member come from, there is nothing in that committee's charge that would have anything to do with the CPC.
I think the fact that those members are either themselves veterans or in direct communication and interest of veterans is the draw for me.
Yeah, but if that's already being covered by Veterans Affairs, the Housing Authority, this authority, this and that, why have somebody that is taking up a spot of an elected, a not elected person, appointed person out there like Brooke and I, okay, that, we're appointed from, outside and we're not, from one of the, I'm sorry here, I'm gone blank, but make it,
Join the
you know,
club.
yeah, another board or something else, committee that, there's nobody here gonna have two members at large. It just
You know,
doesn't seem right.
Justin, you may want to think about talking to the select board about maybe considering that one of their 4 appointments be a veteran. But someone who's coming from this Veteran Services Committee, all right, that's illogical because nothing in the realm of this committee has any pairing at all with the CPC. So the fact that they're a veteran, that's a wonderful thing, but you should have a member of the community maybe that's a veteran, not someone from this committee, because it's not our charge to do anything with the CPC.
And you have more vacancies than you can deal with just for the work of the committee without having work for a second committee.
Exactly correct.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in
Second.
favor, wait, oh,
Sorry.
Kristen's not here, Sandy's not here, sorry. Jim,
Gallagher, aye.
Ken,
Aye.
Brooke,
Aye.
Paul's not here, John, Rich,
Aye,
Justin,
I'll
He
vote
went-
nay for the reasons I said.
okay, so that's 5 in favor, 1 opposed is 6, and we have 3 absent. So the motion carried. So for tomorrow's discussion with FinCom, the recommendation we will bring forth this recommendation that, or the language, the motion that we want select board, we want finance, and we want town meeting to pass over this article.
Do you want me to write a letter for your signature, John, to the select board? Do you want me to just do a quick memo like I did with those other ones? Just saying, you know, to the select board, the CPC met and this is what they voted? How do you-
Okay, yep. If you want to send that to me first, just
Sure.
for a quick.
Do we
Review.
want to do a motion to authorize the letter to be sent on behalf of the CPC with John's signature?
Second it.
Why,
Go ahead, Justin.
why?
Just,
You're just,
We're
all
just-
you're
I'm
doing is
I'm just
you're
conveying
reporting the outcome of the meeting.
right,
so that if they didn't watch this meeting, they would know.
If you want to cover it, just make a motion.
Okay, so I have a motion to permit or to allow a letter to go to the selectmen to follow up from this meeting and to send that information along regarding to pass over this article.
I second it, please.
So I have a motion and a second. Any
Justin, are you
discussion?
okay with me crediting you with that motion?
Yes.
You gotta have at least one per night or we'll kick you off. All those in favor, back to, and I'm gonna skip the ones that aren't here. Get Jim,
Gallagher, aye.
Ken,
Aye.
Brooke,
Aye.
John, Rich,
Aye,
Justin.
Aye.
Okay, so we know how to proceed tomorrow night. And we're gonna write a letter to the select board to update them on what took place tonight, the discussion and the vote. I think that's it. Does it sound good?
The other thing, John, if I
Motion.
may,
Wait,
if the decision is not made to pass over, is there something, you know, at town meeting, we don't, you know, I don't want to step out of line here, but I want to make sure you guys are fully prepared. You know, you can't really have one of you stand up. Well, I guess you could stand up and talk about this meeting, right? You just
Yeah,
kind of want to
right.
make sure everybody's on the same page, right? That,
I'll say for at least myself that should this not be passed over at town meeting, it makes absolute perfect sense for John or someone else from CPC that's present to stand up and talk about the vote we just had and the recommendation we made and why. I think that makes perfect sense.
okay, I want
So-
to make sure, because I know you were uncomfortable at one time, Justin, with something that was done, and I just,
Yeah, where we made a vote as a committee to recommend a certain thing, that is something we can speak on behalf of the committee to, as far as
Okay.
I'm concerned.
and given that town meeting this year is gonna be indoors, there may be in the auditorium, I believe, there may be people that are not comfortable or won't attend that meeting because of COVID. So before the meeting, I might send out an email to see,
who's gonna be there and who's not.
right, to see if people will be attending.
I thought they were gonna move it to Saturday.
But I mean, it's indoors is what I'm saying.
they, I believe there's an article to change the bylaw to be able to move it to Saturday, but they could not move this Monday one to Saturday. The governor's order, excuse me, the governor's executive order had expired. So it's the bylaw calls for it to be,
Indoors.
Now,
with-
I have to change my cable committee oversight meeting because I said, no, we'll stab it on the 18th as normal because they're gonna move that to Saturday. Shit.
Yeah. I'm not sure yet if it's gonna be indoor or not. I haven't heard the final decision on that, but either way, it's the same night as normal.
yeah, same time.
The Monday after Columbus Day,
Mhm.
third Monday.
Indigenous Day, yeah, Indigenous Day.
Yes.
It's a new world. Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second,
A motion and a second. All those in favor,
Roll call.
Jim,
Gallagher, aye.
Ken,
Whitney, I.
Aye.
Brooke, Justin,
Aye.
John, aye. So now unanimous.